Grüß Gott. Ist hier niemand zu Hause? It's Father Neumann from St. Alphonsus.
My father said to let no one in.
But I have come such a long way. Could I not at least come in and rest a while? Sind Sie Ihr Vater? Are you her father?
Yeah.
Was she sick too?
Everyone had fever. She got well.
Anyone else?
Died. My wife, son. Take care of my daughter.
Peristum sanctum unctionem, et suam piissimam misericordiam indulgiat tibi Dominus, quidquid per visum deliquisti. Amen.
Papa!
Mein Liebchen, hab keine Angst. Du kannst bei mir wohnen. Wir werden für dich besorgen.
Father John Neumann arrived in America at the age of 25. In his native Austria, he never knew the kind of deprivation that immigrants would face in the United States. As a seminarian, he vowed to work among these immigrants, providing them some comfort in their struggle. Now, after 16 years, Father Neumann is pastor of St. Alphonsus Church in Baltimore. He still makes the rounds of a country priest, serving those farthest from the church. Pressures from his self-imposed discipline have already caused a complete physical collapse, requiring months for recovery. But it is in this year, 1852, that Father Neumann will face the most difficult crisis of his life.
Well, you're looking at a man who has seen churches burned in Philadelphia, riots where our own people could behave as badly as these know-nothings. But what concerns me most deeply, whole towns in poverty, people without food, without work.
Yes.
And half of these letters are desperate appeals for...
Francis Patrick Kenrick, Archbishop of Baltimore, former Bishop of Philadelphia, will soon have to submit the names of men best suited to fill his earlier post. From his list of nominees, the Pope will select Philadelphia's next bishop.
What shall I say? If my successor is to be on the one hand a powerful administrator and a humble priest on the other?
I personally have no doubt that such a man exists and is within your reach.
George Fenton, Philadelphia businessman and a major contributor to the church. Mr. Fenton is also a long-term friend of the Archbishop.
Many of our good Catholic friends are concerned that the new bishop might not have the charisma or social grace that you brought to the diocese. And frankly, with all the anti-Catholic feelings abroad in the area, they are anxious that the new man should be a distinguished leader.
You know, I have the distinct impression that perhaps you would like to suggest someone for the nomination. Do you have a priest you would especially like to favor?
No, not exactly. What I had hoped is, if it would not seem presumptuous, that you might give us some indication of the choices the Pope will make. Just an idea of the people now under consideration.
George, I'm afraid you've already chosen the proper word, presumptuous. I'm sorry. It's completely out of the question.
My apologies, Your Excellency. I'm sure you're well aware that I never would have asked if I had any idea how you felt about it.
Don't give it another thought. I've always admired your candor, and I regard your concern as a positive sign of interest.
Thank you. I knew that you would find a way of letting me down gracefully, if necessary. Please let me know if I can be of any help. I hope you will be my guest for dinner on your next trip to Philadelphia.
I shall be delighted, and thank you so much for visiting. Godspeed.
Archbishop Kenrick, is it proper for laymen to seek the kind of influence we just saw?
Perhaps not precisely proper, but certainly informative. Mr. Fenton is a good friend of the church and should not be denied his opinions. After all, a bishop can be around for a long time.
Mr. Fenton,
Yes?
may we ask you a question?
All right, but quickly, please.
Isn't a layman's lobby in church matters rather inappropriate?
Inappropriate? Let me ask you if it is appropriate they should assign some little nobody who speaks broken English to the head of our diocese. Rumor has it they are considering a German priest called Neumann or Newman.
Father John Neumann would indeed be an exceptional choice for bishop. But he is an immigrant at a time when immigrants are most unpopular. His record of achievement, however, is undeniable. He now speaks 8 languages, has written a textbook of religious training, and is highly esteemed by the poor people he has chosen to serve. His devotion to the church is also much admired by the Archbishop of Baltimore, who has chosen this much younger man for his regular confessor. There is another quality to Father Neumann which is not easy to define. People who take no stock whatever in religion have been moved by his presence. Parishioners easily recognize his genuine concern, and a number of converts attribute their new faith to meeting this priest.
How's that little girl you found out in Howard County?
Still feeling fairly lost, I'm afraid, but she will speak to people now, and I saw her almost smile the other day.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yes, and I've been lucky enough to find a family who wanted to come and live with them.
Oh, great news. By the way, we're looking for someone to take my place in Philadelphia, and your name has been mentioned. We may have to get you fitted for a mitre.
Father Neumann, did the reference to a mitre mean you might be made bishop?
No, I think that was just a figure of speech.
Well, how would you feel about such an opportunity?
Oh, I'm afraid that I would not call it an opportunity. Besides, it does not seem that I'm suited for bishop. I think that the Archbishop knows that. Hello?
I would like...
Dobre rano, pani.
Dobre, dostojný pane. Jo byste...
Mám trošku srstého chlieba, aby som sa rozdeliť s vami. Môžete dočkať za minutu?
A všem taky.
S Bohom, pani Kimlika, a nech vás popoženia.
A jako dekle.
Good morning, and how may I help you today?
I beg your pardon. Oh, no, thank you, Father. My name is George Fenton. I'm a good friend of the Archbishop. And on my visit there, he suggested that I drop by to meet you. It appears he is most impressed by your work with the foreigners. And I must say, from what I've just seen, that I would quite agree with him.
Would you care to come in and join me? I am about to have lunch.
Well, that would be delightful, and I am only sorry I am in such a hurry today, but I must get back to Philadelphia. I might miss my train. Perhaps next time. Well, it's been a great pleasure meeting you. I hope to see you again.
Certainly. Have a safe journey.
Excuse me, Archbishop. Are you any closer to compiling a final list for the Vatican?
Well, I've certainly received a lot of advice, but to answer your question, yes, I have a list. And I have a preference, Father John Neumann. But I'm a bit worried. The very mention of his name seems to stir up controversy. I've consulted with bishops all over the country.
I have no doubt if he is selected bishop, he will attract the hearts and minds of all to him within a short time.
Neumann seems to have no familiarity with Protestant culture and tradition. Shouldn't we be considering someone with a bit more savoir-faire?
You know, I myself once mentioned him for bishop, but I never thought they'd consider Philadelphia. Erie, perhaps, but not Philadelphia.
Archbishop, how will you deal with all of this?
I'm sure I can't tell you tonight. But I do have something here that'll interest you. A letter from George Fenton. It seems that he ran into Father Neumann on his last trip to Baltimore. Apparently he realized something was up. At any rate, he says, I am sad to report that your Father Neumann did not impress me either in stature or style as anyone who would be appropriate in the Philadelphia diocese. But I cannot deny his zeal as minister to the poor. He seems excellent with those people. I should remind Mr. Fenton that those people are mostly our people.
Go ahead. Look into the tube. It is like a telescope, but it shows us another world.
What is it?
It is a creature. Actually, many creatures.
Creatures?
Jawohl. Do you know where they come from? They are all part of God's world. They are little animals.
No.
Yeah, so small that millions of them can fit on a tiny drop of water. They are part of the same world as the fishes and the birds. Let's go find some other things to put under the microscope.
Yay!
Okay, I want someone to find me a puddle of still water, and then we need a leaf, a very old one. Okay, let's go.
Yes!
Okay, let's go into the field now, and we are going to look for some other things to put under the microscope, yeah? Okay, first of all, someone find me a puddle of still water. Let us look at the stream. Careful now, see it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that is very old, yes, yes. And perhaps a blade of that green grass. Careful in the water now. Good. And here, yes. Oh, yes, that will look very good. The little creatures are living on that little blade of grass. And on the leaf, but only a handful are getting help. Each day, I see dozens of youngsters who cannot even write their name, who have never even heard of the alphabet at 12 years old. In the factories, half the workers are children, and the parents do not work. They do not hire adults because children are cheaper. It is not easy to convince these people that children should be in schools.
But isn't that what you've done so often? I'd like to give you the chance to help families on a far wider scale. Do you know there are communities of Germans near Philadelphia who have absolutely no one with whom they can even discuss their problems?
Are you thinking of a transfer?
Well, yes. I think your talents are too confined here in Baltimore. And I'm convinced that given the right circumstances, in a post where you could work quickly and efficiently, that you'd be a great asset to the people of Philadelphia.
But I've just begun work at St. Alphonsus. I'd hate to leave my projects in midstream and start out at another parish.
I didn't mean a parish. I was thinking of a diocese. I have submitted your name to the Vatican. You're a nominee for Bishop of Philadelphia.
Oh, no. That would be an injustice. I mean, that would be a great injustice to the people of Philadelphia. Surely you've heard of what happened when I was vicar of the Redemptorists. Did no one speak to you of the priests who complained to Belgium? They wrote letters to our superiors stating that I was not an administrator, that I could not exercise authority. I was called soft-hearted.
I know. It was a very difficult time for you. But every great leader faces criticism.
But I do not believe that I am such a leader. I can't face those critics again. I don't want to go where I am not wanted.
John, I know you. You wouldn't run away from the battles that are to be fought there. If we don't help the immigrants now, we shall lose them forever. Frankly, I'd rather keep you here in Baltimore. But my conscience wouldn't let me choose a lesser man.
Archbishop, I beg you. Is there no way you can take back my name?
I'm sorry, John. I can't do it.
But I'm very happy here. I'm afraid I would be a terrible disappointment.
John, please believe me. If I had known you'd feel this way about it, I wouldn't have submitted your name. But it's out of my hands now. The Pope will decide.
Please, do not let them make me bishop.
John, we have sworn obedience to the church. Whatever happens, you'll have my support. Goodbye, John.
The Vatican requires that 3 names be submitted as nominees for each new bishop. However, with John Neumann's name on the list, there is not much doubt who will be chosen. With this news, all the fears of inadequacy that have haunted him since childhood are now driven back to the surface. He will resist this appointment, even appealing to the Vatican. Unfortunately, rumor has almost put the mitre on his head even before the Pope makes his decision. Professor George Allen of the University of Pennsylvania and his wife Mary.
We are converts to the church, and we've known Archbishop Kenrick a long time. And when I heard he was recommending a Redemptorist priest, I said to everyone, a humble religious man is just the sort of person I'd expect our Archbishop to send us.
Of course, we'll be delighted to have a scholar as a chief prelate in Philadelphia. I understand Father Neumann is a serious student of theology, and I'm looking forward to having him as my guest at the university. It's good to know a Catholic who can stand his ground in a philosophical discussion.
Other reactions might best be described as mixed. Gil Stewart, a Baltimore journalist.
One time, up in New York State, it seems this innkeeper wants to throw a bash on a holy day. Well, he's setting out beer, whiskey, the works, and along comes this little German priest, and he says, "Nix der Schnaps," or something. That was Father Neumann. Anyway, he tells this innkeeper if he has his party, he's leaving town forever. You know, the, this town is not big enough for both of us routine. Well, the townspeople get together, and they say we can't have a town without a padre. And they boycott the innkeeper, and he's got to leave the place. I hear they're sending Neumann to Philadelphia, which is all right with me.
Angelo Rosato will never forget his first encounter with Father Neumann.
Oh, everybody know him. Let me tell you something. The first time I meet him, everybody said to me, "Watch yourself with this priest. He's a German, very strict." So I see him coming down the street one day. My wife bought me. "Stand up straighter," she say. "It's a new priest." He walk right up to me and say, "Buongiorno, signore. Come sta?" I'm so surprised, I say, "Sta bene. E grazie, compa." My wife kicking me. "He's a priest and not a relative," she say. He laughed and say, "It's all right. I don't mind being a relative. I'm a loving him for that." And every time I see him now, I yell, "Hey, compa!" And he always stops to say hello.
Sister Mary Francis of the Oblate Sisters of Providence. Recently, Father Neumann saved their teaching community by direct intervention.
We teach the children of slaves. Nobody wanted to give money for this purpose. Father Neumann went to the bishop and begged him to support our order.
Archbishop Kenrick, most of the people we've spoken to believe Father Neumann has already been declared bishop. Can you confirm this?
It seems almost irrelevant at this point, doesn't it? Gossip, then rumors, then announcements in the press. But yes, I can now make it official. A letter arrived this morning from the Vatican. Father Neumann will be consecrated bishop.
Has he been told?
No. Everyone seems to know except the man himself. And that task, of course, has fallen to me.
Father Neumann, we've heard that you were going to Philadelphia after all.
Oh, yes. I have heard the rumors, but I do not take much stock in their talk.
Do you really believe that the appointment is so unlikely?
Several years ago, when I was head of my religious order, we all agreed that I was not suited for administration. It was very embarrassing, but I'm sure that I will not be put in such a position again. I have asked the vicar and other redemptorists to write letters to the Pope stating that I should not be made bishop.
What will you do if it doesn't work?
I don't know. I would rather die tomorrow than be consecrated bishop. If you will excuse me.
On March 28, 1852, his 41st birthday, Father John Neumann was consecrated bishop and assigned to Philadelphia. In that year, the city held the greatest concentration of immigrants in America, and for their sake, the Archbishop had judged correctly. In less than a decade, Bishop Neumann built nearly 40 schools and 80 churches, establishing an educational system that was to become a standard in the U.S. Even in the midst of this activity, he took the time to visit the outlying parishes of eastern Pennsylvania, attending the aged, the sick, and imprisoned. Yet he still felt incapable as an administrator, and on several occasions wrote to Rome asking for reassignment. The Vatican responded by sending another bishop, who would take over the administrative work in the diocese. This only served to reinforce John Neumann's feelings of incompetence. Bishop Neumann, it's been 8 years now since you arrived in Philadelphia. Would you mind taking the time to describe your experience here?
When I was a young man, I dreamt of becoming a priest. Over the years, my dreams have come true. But being a bishop, that has only been a burden. My decisions are criticized by my staff. Some priests complain that I am too informal and undignified. Others say that I am cold, aloof. Sometimes in the morning, I feel as though I am going to the gallows.
That must be an unhappy job to face alone.
Oh, but I'm not unhappy or lonely. I have a feeling of security and peace, a great sense of being loved. I know God loves me. That means everything. The emptiness and pain of not being loved is a terrible experience. I am spared that, and that helps me tell others that God has not stopped loving them and caring for them. I have a prayer I like to say when things are difficult. Lord, there's nothing that's going to happen to me today that you and I together can't handle. Tomorrow I am leaving for Lancaster. I am still the only priest to speak German there. And right now, I hope you will excuse me, I must get to the post office to mail this chalice to Father Knopf in Bellefonte. I'm sure he'll be very happy to see this.
Thursday morning, January 5th, 1860. On his way to the post office, Bishop John Neumann suffered a stroke and was dead within the hour. The descendants of those people John Neumann loved still pray to his memory. And in June 1977, he was canonized a saint.